Hey guys, Grimes McGee here, your favorite lo-fi music YouTuber, the Duke of Italy, and Happy New Year. I know, I don't need to hear it. I just uploaded my last part of this, which I recorded a month in advance, and I uploaded twice, failed uploads, went on vacation both times, thought I could squeeze it in, thought I could squeeze this in, but vanity is the downfall of humanity. That's the phrase of the day. And today we're talking about something excellent, more black metal. Real quick bit of housekeeping just to be annoying if you guys care. I do plan on doing a year end list for 2024 at some point. And I do plan on doing a single video for Genre January if I can get away with it. I would like to. I'd like to do a little something. But we'll see what happens, honestly. In all honesty, we're probably going to have less videos this year, just getting a lot more work in my own field. But I do plan on making them worth your while. I do plan on doing the same content I've kind of been doing for a couple years now, just getting more perspective, listening to more music. I'm going to try and get more perspective on my own. It's really just finding the time to record has been the main problem. Editing is even easier than that. It's just recording. I've been having a little motivation to do it lately, but hopefully something kicks it into gear at some point soon. I definitely still enjoy it, but not as much as I enjoy these 30 perfect black metal albums. You heard me correctly. We're doing what I did last year, where I just condensed two parts into one because I'm a gremlin. And of course, we're covering more Italian black metal. And I want to give a quick little aside. I haven't heard these albums in a minute. But here are 30 great black metal albums for you. And we're going to start off with a band called Infamous with Of Solitude and Silence, which you get a style that is very much of approximately 1 decade ago. It's a 35-minute long album of lush DSBM. Not quite shoegazy like the Black Gaze thing that came out just around this time, but what you get instead is just that thick, really lethargic, very atmospheric DSBM style with some really dramatic chords as well. It's hypnotic, it's got really thick production, it totally works. It's got these really tasty transitional licks that help it rise above its contemporaries, because this is a subgenre that is really easy to clown on, really easy to find redundant and even boring, but what you get here is actually pretty nice. You also do get these really random and manic major chords thrown in there that give it kind of a manic feeling. Something I find really awesome, especially something that's been cropping up more in the past 3 years of black metal this year. The modern wave of black metal seems to be throwing in major chords and being completely insane sounding. For how short this album is overall, I think it hits really hard. I think it's a great album, one that's really underrated. And up next, we have Trist with Steiny, legendary DSBM band. Thought I might as well finally check it out and see what it's all about. And I've taken the red pill, I believe. This is some DSBM slop. It's terrible. Yeah, I'm totally fed up with DSBM that wants to do the lethargic thing and have like the moaning screamed vocals. It's really dumb. It can work. Some bands pull it off well, like Xasthur kind of did for a couple albums here and there. But if I want something depressing, I know which bands I'm going to listen to. And Trist is not one of them. This is a band that has very little skill. I still kind of plan on listening to another one of their albums at some point, but this was an album that I was like, it's really just trying to be something in its genre with a lot of like fake passion. A lot of the European contemporaries of DSBM kind of do that. You will find occasional things that touch upon DSBM. They touch upon that style that are really excellent, but this just isn't it. What is great though is a band called Celestial Bloodshed with Cursed, Scarred, and Forever Possessed. Now, this one isn't quite touching upon DSBM. It's not like fully DSBM like something like Leviathan might be, or touching upon it as much as something like Mutilation might be. It doesn't sound that horrid, but I'd say it has a similar vein to, honestly, De Mysteries Dum Satanas by Mayhem, having that level of self-destruction and that level of like bizarre abstract self-hatred and enough level of disgust to touch upon those depressing themes just enough without being so warped sounding. It is a very excellent, straightforward black metal release with some really good elements of melodicism here and there, but it really grounds itself with some more hard-hitting, more immediate riffage as well. And up next, we have Leviathan with True Traitor, True Whore, an album that a lot of people have dissed on, obviously for the context of in which the album was recorded. Jeff Whitehead faced some pretty damning allegations around the time, and this album did not give him a very good public appearance. It felt a little bit edgy at the time, which he has come around to and said he wished he changed a couple of the titles. It was a little forward, but at the end of the day, I kind of cover things for the musical content and how they make me feel. It's a very genuine album, I'll say that, and it is maybe the most like normal sounding Leviathan album. To me, it sounds like the third black metal Leviathan album if it was condensed a bit. It does have a very avant-garde feeling to the whole thing. It's very twisted. It's got updated production from its last album, and it's just under 50 minutes in length, which is pretty short for a Leviathan album. It's extremely dissonant guitar, even chunky at points, which kind of points towards the death metal production that he would be taking on his next album. There's a lot of doom, a lot of spite, some really great ambient effects, but the riffs are really where it's at here. The final track here is just a total trip, feels almost psychedelic. It doesn't sound as much like the previous Leviathan albums, but I think it's great. Honestly, it's probably the most underrated black metal album I know of personally. Kind of cements Leviathan as like one of, like, if this is the bad album for a band, they smoke out the competition. Leviathan is truly one of the best bands out there, and I won't even argue about that. I think that's just a fact. And up next, we have a legendary Norwegian collab, an EP that I should have covered years ago. It's considered kind of essential, but because it's an EP, it's kind of an oddball. Zyklon B with Blood Must Be Shed, the sole release of the band, aside from a bootleg split with Thorns. This one is a cool one. It features members of Satyricon and Emperor, as well as a vocalist that was in a couple bands that aren't as well known. And what you get is this hyper melodic, really fast and intense piece of black metal that is just furious. You get Frost from Satyricon on drums here with his insanely high BPM blast beats that just give it a totally rushing effect, like an untouchably fast effect. It is as furious and instant as war metal, despite having twice the melodic complexity. You have these really unrelenting synths, which sounds like an oxymoron, which just sound completely crazy. It's like, how do you even apply that in a musical context? There is so much complexity in the composition. These are some of the best 10 minutes in black metal, which is a crazy thing to say, but it's great. It's worth listening to. It's a legendary piece of music. Check it out. And up next, we have a re-listen with Streborg's Ghost Woodland, famous Australian DSPM innovator here. Streborg, and now Blackwave innovator coming into the 2020s. Streborg has always been one of those projects that I've touched upon a bit, but they've always felt kind of impenetrable due to just the sheer massive discography and massive converging of styles. So I went back and checked out one of the earlier pieces of music to see what it was about. And unfortunately, I was a little disappointed. It's creepy, it's crusty, it's atmospheric, it's long. A lot of these songs are like 10 minutes plus with maybe like 2 riffs. It's got some cool ambient sections, and the sparse piano is a really excellent touch. It feels like something that the best DSPMs tend to do. But the biggest problem is that's it. That's really all I have to talk about. There's not anything more there for me that provides any more material or anything to chew on. And it's a longer album too. It's approaching like an hour in length. Like, that's not enough for me. And the riffs aren't good enough. The melodies aren't good enough. It's just in general not good enough. I think it's okay. But instead, I also listened to Drowning Lights, The Fading Rays of the Sun. Second time Drowning the Light showed up on this list. Drowning the Light, when they're good, they do the same thing consistently. They have really raw, or sometimes as due to their one of their latest full-length albums, not totally raw black metal that tends to be just the most gut-wrenching, saddest black metal ever. Just for a melodic sense, the chords they pick are they're just pathetic. They are horrible. It's a great time. And up next we have Altar of Perversion from Dead Temples Towards Thy Astral Path. A mouthful, but a cool name, a really cool name. But does the material stack up? Despite the occasional Atmo black riff or repetition that it entertains, this feels like particularly filthy black metal. And the energy is really forward. It has a lot of momentum. It really keeps you awake. They have these long songs that are approaching 10 minutes with some really interesting compositions and a really cool usage of very minimalist guitar solos. I'm saying they do happen relatively often, but they are minimalist in composition. They're not flashy at all. It's kind of like some stuff you'd hear off of Burzum's second album. The clean tone that it uses during the more insane and fast-paced moments at points is just insane and twisted. This is an album that really doesn't gratify the listener as much as the listener would like. It does that intentionally. It does things It's almost like they were in the studio and they said, what do the listener want most right now? And they're like crazy, flashy, electric guitar solo with tons of squeals and pick scrapes and bends. And they're like, let's do a clean tone and just crush the listener as much as possible. It's cool and deadly, just dark and aggressive. It feels really, really cynical. I think it's great. I think it's a great piece of music, one that you should check out. And now one that's very, very different. The final album of this band that I've covered is one I'm representing on this shirt right now, Have a Hedge, with Tablet of Uncreation. This is sort of their drone metal crossover. The second time they did something like this, Paul Ledney of the band, of course, makes very experimental and just filthy black metal noise ambient stuff, which this is a drum forward noise based black metal album. It definitely stretches the ideas of black metal a bit. There's not a lot of guitar that shows up. Paul Ledney is known for sort of maintaining black metal as more of an attitude than an actual musical style, which is funny because he also has made it so that it is more death metal leaning than any other European band. The light bass work placed throughout the album ties the whole thing together. It almost makes it feel like borderline melodic at points. It has a whole lot of really interesting texture that it combines with the harsh noise and the drumming. It's brief, only 29 minutes long, but it feels so grand. It is sickeningly twisted. I would actually describe this as a horrid album. It's one that actually made me feel really upset listening to it. So obviously you should check it out. And up next, another Italian band for this chart, Nazgul, with, let me attempt this, De Expugna Trone Elfmuth, which is another epic black metal example for you guys. Italy's known for their epic black metal a little bit, as well as their more heavy metal leaning stuff. I've kind of found that to be the case. And they also had an EP before this that I reviewed a little bit earlier on a previous episode, and I gotta say their full length is just as impressive. The drums that are mostly electronic are blistering, insanely energetic. Seriously, if you think of Summoning having blast beats at points, that's what you get here. The synth leads come off as densely layered, and the guitar riffs can be insanely melodic. But there's a ton of grit as well. It feels almost chunky at points. It's very dramatic with cool, distant vocals. Admittedly, I actually prefer the demo just a little bit, having a little bit more ferocity. But here, it's great. I'd dare say it's essential. A lot of really amazing tracks on here, and you should check it out. And up next, we have another sort of atmospheric black metal project from Italy. We have Earthen Pillars with Earthen Pillars 1, one of those glacially slow atmospheric black metal projects that actually I'm kind of a sucker for at points. I love that thick production style. It's not wallowing in anything in particular and tries to be very atmospheric. It's something that kind of got me into black metal, and it was never something I used for edginess. I always found a little bit of value in it, even if it did just rely on sheer insane ambient textures and just ambiance in general. It's a very simple, very droney style of Atmo Black with a ton of sorrow, something very interesting. There's some ever so slightly innovative drumming to add a bit of intrigue. It's like these long-term drum beats have just something that doesn't feel very common to them. Like, even if it's a blast beat, maybe it's in triplets, or maybe if it does something more akin to a breakdown, it's got different cymbal usage. It's little tiny things like that that are hard to recall necessarily at this moment that give this album enough momentum despite its drony nature. Also, the synthesizers are perfectly tuned to give the guitars so much extra weight. There are 3 real songs here, all over 10 minutes, very epic, very comfy. I think this is like a great atmospheric black metal album. I can understand it not being for everyone. It's a micro-genre. I totally fell in love with getting into this genre. It's something I really, really like. I think its thick haziness works as an ambient style of black metal. If you don't like ambient, you won't like this, but I like ambient, so I do like it. Up next is Hail Conjurer with Satanic Phenomenology. I don't know, Femininomenology. Yeah, it's Chappell Roan's black metal debut. Terrible artist aside, we got a good artist here. It is a recent release, happy to say, but it's just this gross Dark Throne worship in all essence, which is a pretty good leg to stand on. You know, people have been worshiping Dark Throne for 32 years at this point. It's got some really broken sounding interludes that kind of tie the whole album together, something that I find very pleasing. It's mournful and spiteful. The attitude is really there. The songs also feel distinctly sickening. I just kind of wish it riffed harder. And for that, I say it's good. I think it's worth a listen if you want another black metal album from last year. But instead, I found Aldridge for Death and Glory to the Gods I Cry. Just riffs for days. Up to 8 minutes plus of like folky, insane riffs. Feels just insane. A really, really cool album. Melodic to no end. One of the better melodic black metal albums I've heard of the past decade, I'd say. So totally worth checking out. Hope you guys enjoy it yourselves. And next is a band called Kill with Horned Holocaust. We just got to talk about that name for a second. You know, you've got bands like Burzum or Dark Throne or Dissection or Emperor or Morbid Angel. That's death metal, but it counts. Let me think of more, like Archgoat or Blasphemy. You got all these names, but someone as late as at least the 2000s chose a name and they said, I want it to be Kill. Love it. Genuinely, I would have taken that first chance I got is making my band name Kill. Like it's just sick. It's like, what's your band about? Kill. It's really just the perfect band name in my opinion. Some of you might think it's stupid, but well, I think you're stupid because here you get filthy raw black metal with wretched vomit style vocals, stuff that like early 2000s Mayhem kind of did, and that's kind of my bag right there. Not early 2000s Mayhem, but that vocal style is sick. It's got these really fast mechanical blast beats which feel so anti-human. It feels like AI. It's got this really thick mid-range sound with a really well-blended bass. It really just supports the guitar. It's got these very immediate warlike riffs, not super melodic. It just kind of hits as hard as it can, as fast as it can. There is a tiny, tiny, tiny dose of triumph amongst the putridity, which almost makes it like inspiring in a weird, twisted way. It's like in weird negative feelings. It's a conflicting album emotionally as an artistic statement, but it's a fun one. It is sickening. It's very great. And up next, we have Mortuary Drape with Secret Sudaria, a band that I have not been too exposed to, but I was excited to get more of their thrashy, heavy metal stuff, and that's what you get here. Some seriously good Slayer-esque atmosphere with a bit more reliance on the slower riffs, slower than Slayer anyway. It feels kind of like early 90s Slayer, or really just like post-Raining Blood Slayer. But you do get some seriously dazzling lead guitar, some really interesting melodies that trail off into really cool ways. While atmosphere is the band's strong suit by every mean, the constant D beats are a really cool plus. I think it adds a sort of extra filth where it was welcome. If first wave black metal or like caveman thrash was a bit more orchestrated and corrupted, that's what would have happened here. I think it's great. It's my favorite Mortuary Drape album so far. The atmosphere is very palpable. Up next is Urfaust with Teufelgeist, except it's not. I DQ'd that one without even listening to it because I looked it up and apparently it's not even black metal. So wasn't going to make that mistake again. But unlike Lorna Shore a few years ago, where they were like someone on Mew memed that they were black metal because they had symphonic elements. Sorry, I'm getting so mad I'm having the hiccups. Unlike that, Urfaust is actually a black metal band. So all I had to do is look a little deeper to their discography and find a little album called, what's it called? For Einsiedler, which is a 2-track, really jammy black metal EP, which almost sounds like a demo, but what you get out of it is actually really cool. Both are slow, domineering, slightly imposing, slightly manic, all things I like in my black metal, and they're both kind of jam band-esque, which kind of lends towards the main criticisms of this EP. A lot of people say it doesn't have a full direction going for it, but I think the way it uses its length, it uses a lot of really cool elements that's not seen in black metal a lot. It's like the soloing is far more intricate. The synthesizers are way cooler. They both feel really, really cool. The soloing is amazing. If you want Grateful Dead, but good, and also black metal, then this is your EP for you. It's only 20 minutes long, but it's one that's like such a vibe to me, but it's also like still sickening. So I think it's worth a listen. So I think it's great. And up next is another Italian project, I'm proud to say, with Progeny Terrestre Pura with UMA, which is sort of a cosmic black metal project, which cosmic black metal is the one of the more recent waves of black metal that I'm really iffy on. It's one that never really grabbed me. A lot of those bands kind of just passed by me. I was like, I hear it, I hear what you're doing. I don't really mess with it. But this was one kind of on the early side of it, and it went fully into it. It didn't try to have just really glossy, slightly melodic production. It tried to have some actual quality songwriting here, and what you had was really cool. It had a lot of electronics, a lot of beeps and boops. It's definitely early 2010s with the trends it pulls, but it does it better. There even seems to be a light djent and Tool influence. It's characterful, well executed. It's got these cool, disjointed riffs. The double kicks fire off in a really cool way. They are very syncopated and seem to be sort of drifting in and out of tempo. It's got some really innovative riffs, and it doesn't even feel like black metal half the time. There is a ton of space ambient as well, which gives this thing a whole lot of character. And I love Tool. I don't love djent, but I love Tool, so I thought this was great. Honestly, I thought it was really innovative. It really was a good dosage of uniqueness at this part of the chart, so I welcome it with open arms. I think you guys should all enjoy it. And up next, a little over halfway through this video with a re-listen, Festung with Der Term. Look upon my works, ye mighty, in despair. Which is, I stole that from Rate Your Music, because I'm a gremlin. But this thing is just a monolithic piece of work. It's Paysage d'Hiver worship, but the best kind. Totally unique, very interesting, with tons of interlude tracks, going about an hour and a half in length, with sheer magnitude on its side, with the opening track like 18 minutes long. Just a furious piece of work, and tons of interesting interlude parts that lead perfectly into the next track. Tons of acoustic bits, excellent melodicism, hugely dramatic chords, and a sense of imagery that is irreplicable. Just like, it's not snowy like Paysage d'Hiver. I would kind of compare it to like Paysage d'Hiver's like their final album before the big long break, the one of the gate. It's not Einsamkeit, it's the one of the big gate with the big black door on the album cover, which is a very excellent album, but it kind of evokes that, and you get it again here. It is equal parts powerful and barren, almost like the Lord of the Rings universe. There's also excellent variety here, like the song Varheit is particularly doomy. This is an album that I have very little complaints on. It's one I can't just put on, but it feels so huge, like the tower on the album cover. The imagery represents it perfectly. It's also a band that is relatively quiet on social media, so I hope they make some more stuff soon, because I am here for it, man. Moving on. Up next, we have Gehenna with Seen Through the Veils of Darkness. What you get here is an ever so slightly folky take on early Emperor, which is a winning combination. You get enticing, excellent lead riffs, and that's what the game is all about, baby. The keys are the main appeal, though. They have a somber yet dreamy effect that really adds a lot of depth to this album. This is an album that is not insistent on action. It takes its time when it wants to, it paces itself when it wants to, and it also reaches very logical conclusions while also being properly Dionysian. It's energetic and emotional and awesome and great, and you should check it out. And one thing very opposite and doesn't take its time is Black Witchery with Inferno of Sacred Destruction. It's brutal, it's heavy, it's fast-paced, it's great to pump iron to. It's 22 minutes long, it's noisy, it's bassy, it's raw, it's claustrophobic, it's intense, it's surging, it does nothing new for the genre, it's great anyway. And up next we have The Nightly Disease with The Smell of Burning Wood. Atmos slop. Get this out of my face. It's fully instrumental, it's boring, there's some fun piano on the second track. I refer to it as okay, but I don't believe it. But replacing that, we have a band called Karache with an album that I don't even know how to pronounce. And that wasn't even how you pronounce the band. The name of the band, Dakale. I'll show the album cover here. One of the craziest black metal albums I'll hear that is still strictly black metal. All of the lyrics are about the structure of a house. What? Architecture students listen to this one, but it's literally about walking in a front door, and by the end of the album cover, you like leave the house from a different exit. But the riffs in the atmosphere are so crazy and weird, it implies something much deeper about this house. It's very twisted. It feels like a Robert Eggers film, and I would know because I just watched Nosferatu today. But I'd say it kind of feels like The Lighthouse, like something so unassuming, but because of your human perspective and the droney elements and the riffs, it gets warped. But this one's really interesting. It's not necessarily flashy or technical. It kind of reminds me of Spite Extreme Wing, where its simplicity is kind of masking how deep and complex it is, or rather, it's the other way around. It might seem simple at a glance, even punky and raw, but it's got so much gravity and weight underneath it and a really twisted atmosphere. It's a great one of the more interesting albums I've heard in black metal recently, and it's totally worth your time. And up next we have Orrery with 9 Odes to Oblivion. It's the band's sole 2008 release, fully instrumental, and yet it's very interesting atmo black. It's got some really excellent chord progressions, which is kind of what you're looking for in atmospheric black metal. It's very gloomy and mysterious. It also feels oddly manic at points. Like the use of acoustic guitar is rather immediate sounding. It's actually some of the fastest paced parts on the album. It's got almost this like Eastern European folk immediacy to it that feels foreign and almost dangerous. But what it does is so huge. It's just excellently done. This is an album that shows the efficacy of good composition and that you don't need anything but good songwriting. And it's here. It's great. And for a recent release, we have Nimbifier with Der Bosgeist. Just a sickening piece of music. Kind of reminds me of Kill's Horned Holocaust. High drama, desperation, a little bit of triumph, some emotions I really like in my black metal. The two guitars have a serious contrast between glacially slow chord changes and ripping fast riffs. Literally both ends of the entire spectrum. It's 35 minutes of just beast work, and it's great. One of the best black metal albums of the year. Seriously intense stuff. And up next we have Urget with Empty Waters Down the Mist EP. Apparently it's Italian, but I don't really know. I don't even know why I wrote it down, because like 3 people have listened to this thing in the world. It's a generic one-man black metal with a very confusing electronic interlude. It's like a different musical style entirely. Opening the Gates of Reality is a decent song. It's kind of reminds me of Immortal at points with some sick riffs, cool drama. But overall, this thing is just really falls flat. It feels kind of pointless. It feels like a lack of effort. And I'll be honest, I don't know what I meant to replace this with, but the new Paysage d'Iberge is nothing like it. It is a towering, huge, expansive wasteland of music. If you like the older Paysage d'Hiver albums and you wanted it for an hour and a half long and you could handle it for an hour and a half long, this is really for you. I don't know if it's one of the best albums of the year, one of the best black metal albums of the year, but it just is so harrowing, and it has some really cool influences too. You know, there's some songs that harken back to the first Paysage d'Hiver album. You know, it's got some really doomy elements, some more ambient parts, not as much synths as I would have liked personally, but it's a Paysage d'Hiver album, and the dude's kind of a genius in terms of ambient texture, so this album is for me. And up next we have Helda with Svarin Garispeia, which is a 20-minute long supposedly full-length album, which has intense screamo-esque vocals and blistering speed. It's a fun one off the bat. It's one guitar, it's crazy fast, kind of fun, zero messing around really. It's really just ludicrous speed. It takes its time truly only once or twice. It is a bewildering piece of music. I'm sure it would be fun live, maybe not as fun as it is on the album, because it just kind of leaves you sitting there wondering what the heck just happened. Not that many black metal albums out there that are just a showcase of speed, but this is one of them. I think it's great. And up next is Ved Blends End with Those Who Caress the Pale. It's a demo. It's a popular band's less popular pick. It's the band's only other release other than Written Waters. A showcase of excellent clean vocals for black metal. Truly artistry. It's creepy and melodic, very gothic feeling. I think it's something that is totally underutilized in black metal in general, and it was just executed to a T. It's just perfectly done. It's got this really slow-paced riffing and this cool call and response structure to it that adds so much complexity. It's something just unheard of for black metal. This is like if outsider black metal was as inside as it could get. It is also a shockingly great mix for a demo. I don't know how they got it to sound so good. It's got clean vocals and a mix that almost makes it sound dusty overall, which I think is such an interesting idea. Blisteringly beautiful vocals just come out of the ether. There are these gloomy bar chord filled rhythm sections that just show how gloomy and depressing this thing can really be when it wants to be. It's really a stunning demo that only led to an amazing, untouchable album. This one's great. Really one everyone should experience. This is a band that has kind of withstood the test of time, and they're one of those like miracle one-off bands. And up next we have Fides Inversa with, Lord help me on this one, Honk Asien Sola Rotundit Virtus, the Algolonia Divine. That's an easier way to pronounce it, which is a cool one, because it feels like a whole bunch of songs that are just amazing, but they all happen to be in like 3 songs instead of a whole bunch. You get constant, great, very immediate feeling pieces of songs that are really attached to a larger song overall. And it kind of confused me on first listen. I was like, really? That was not a song done right there. It's part of a bigger song. Not that it was any problem. It didn't hurt the listening experience at all. It's just something I kind of noticed. But it is blistering. It's energetic. It is sick. And the songs are long. They're all 10 minutes long, and it's only 4 songs for an album. It is a 1-to-1 ground and pound heavy drum beat to blast beat ratio. And it riffs a little bit like Inquisition, just slightly less good, which Inquisition's riffs are untouchable. So basically think of 2024 Inquisition riffs. And they're off the chain intense, just beast stuff, and with bass guitar too. It is totally repetitive, but very evil. It feels crazy. I think this is a great one. Really underrated piece of music. Super sick. Kind of called back to Spite Extreme Wing, but maybe a bit more riffy. Super cool one. And next is a re-listen of Gris with Il État une Forêt, which is French. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't care. But it's sort of a DSBM classic. And for many good reasons. It is eclectic and interesting. Dare I say neoclassical at points? A lot of really classic elements come together for something honestly really nice. It is raw and crunchy at points. It is definitely a bit folky though, like shades of Druth come through. It's definitely on the slower atmospheric side, but points of melodicism really shine through when it wants to. Even some light neoclassical moments make for a really good, well-rounded listening experience. Dare I say it's like the master of puppets of black metal, but more particularly DSBM. You know, it's got so much more than any other proper DSBM album out there. One that's really interesting and accessible and kind of wowing to most listeners. It's one that I should find a copy of at some point when I have like money in my life, but for now I'm just gonna hope and pray it when it shows up on Discogs and someone meant to do it for 5 times the price. And after that we have Svartrit with One, which is a totally unexpected masterstroke of Swedish black metal brilliance. Subtle keyboards and amazing diversity in the riffs. Seriously, these songs will leave you gasping with how much insane content they have. They go to such insane lengths to dazzle you, and they do it every time. At one point, there is a 10/4 time signature riff that defies all opposition. It's just perfectly segmented. That could be a polyrhythm. Sorry if I'm wrong. It is never boring. It is just riff after riff of perfection. This one gets my riff award of the whole year. Banging. It's great. Up next, we have Tele Therion. Jeez, with Lucifer, it's Abscheid. I don't know. It's the Black Noise project, which I DQ'd. It's not really black metal. If you like Sun's side projects, though, you would really like this. So I was thinking to myself, what could I replace this with? Like, I was looking into stuff, and this is not exactly the best representation of something closer to black metal that Tele Therion would do, but it's something with a really interesting background. This is a project from a Dominic Farrow, who is known for harsh noise music under his Prurient alias, but he's also a member of Departure Chandelier, as well as a couple other black metal projects. This one kind of is a meeting point between the raw brutality of his harsh noise music and the intense, direct, wintry, spiteful atmosphere of his actual black metal projects, as well as some punky nature from some of his noisecore stuff. This is Vegas Martyrs with Vancouver Missing Women. Just from that title alone, I expect like some of the most sickeningly disgusting material ever, and it is what you get. I seriously, a lot of people criticize this thing for having a lot of simplicity to it. I don't get it. It's got a little bit of a punk influence, but the riffs are crazy. The composition is truly top-notch. It's noisy. It's definitely noisy. But if you don't like noisy black metal, get out of my face. This isn't the genre for you if you don't like noise. This is one of the most emotive, manic things I've ever heard. It's like a killer who like can't stop himself and like wants to, but like can't. It is just like emotionally gripping the whole time. And I'm just assuming that from the titles. You know, I didn't research the lyrics too much, but it is just will lock you in the entire time. It is the most dramatic black metal. It is utterly fierce and unforgiving. It is quite possibly my most favorite black metal album I've discovered from this year. It's now in like my top 20 black metal albums of all time. It is like one of the craziest cool things I've ever heard. Absolutely check it out. I would recommend everyone to listen to this one. It is my favorite one on the chart, like by a little bit. It is my favorite thing to be on this entire chart, and I that's all I can really say about it. And up next we have Black Funeral with Vampire, Throne of the Beast. Real classic American black metal album here, kind of at the beginning of second wave stuff, so something really interesting, which is in its vampiric black metal, my beloved, you know, just the best stuff. It's got old, raw, decrepit, skittering insect percussion, and it's got the sad melodic guitar over these ripping blast beats, which is a super cool combo. It's even catchy. It's second wave at its core. I think it's one that's kind of criticized a bit too much, although a lot of people don't like it all that much, but I'm a big fan of it. I think it was perfectly self-hating enough to be something I like a lot. And up next, an album that I think I was supposed to mention earlier, but I'm mentioning it this late, Tenebrae in Perpetuum with Antico Mysticismo, which has buzzy, evil, cavernous production, which is already a plus, and this grinding repetition, which is some really sick Burzum influence, and mostly blast beats, which is just so hateful. It feels awesome. And it's got these insect-like skittering riffs, like they climb up these scales in such a jagged, angular way. It's got these really thrashy swank beats and a little bit of Les Legions Noir influence in terms of just the sheer disgust. It's good, hateful black metal. It's what I'm here for. It's really great. And to round out the year, we have a newer release, one from Russia, one entitled, please forgive me, Zvazdny Krom. That's my best attempt. Here's a picture of the album cover. It's a horse in the sky. Really cool, really cosmic stuff. And if you like your black metal a little bit manic, you're going to like this one a lot. Maybe not one of my absolute favorite black metal albums of the year, but a really excellent one. Just really cool, interesting atmosphere, something cosmic, the craziest manic vocals ever. Kind of reminds me a bit of Minima a little bit, which this band is actually called Star Temple in English, which is such a cool name. Really cool idea off the bat. It's got Blaze Hall style, really raw production, which is just destined for greatness. It is manic and gross at times. It's bright and glowing and otherworldly, but at the same time, it's a little bit harmful feeling. And it's very interesting. It's like dramatic but comfy at the same time. It's something you don't hear a lot. It's a very lonely album. It's like something with an imaginary friend. It's a bummer, but at the same time, it's not. It feels like distinctly bipolar at points, like something that's also very impressionistic. You could very much find your own way of interpreting it, particularly because I don't speak Russian, so it's hard to know what he's saying, but black metal has not been the most easy to understand genre ever, and this continues that trend pretty well, I have to say. It's mysterious with an appropriate amount of noise as well. You know, if it's noisy, I tend to like it more. But yeah, that's the album. It is great, and indeed, that is 60 great black metal albums that I will be posting on a Topsters right in front of my face, hopefully right now, minus that Zvazdny Krom album, because I don't know how to spell it, man. Who knows how to spell that stuff? Not me. But it was a good time. It was a good year. Got it out finally. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope it's out before, I don't know, 2026 at this rate. Oops, my bad. Oops. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this Nothing But Black Metal November. I sure did. Hope you enjoyed. Comments, questions, concerns down below. Please like and subscribe if you have a moment to click one of those things. Reach out to Jen down below. Make sure to follow and give all your money. And don't give me any money, but my Discord's down below as well as my other social medias. But who cares about those? Join my Discord so we can talk about music on my Discord page. And that's about it. Y'all have a good day. Bye.